Hey everyone, I'm Jenny. In this series of videos, we're going to do a Q&A on streaming data. The leaders of Estuary have been hard at work attending many podcasts around the data engineering community, sharing their valuable knowledge. You may not have caught all of the podcasts, so we're going to do a YouTube series taking the best out of these podcasts and presenting the knowledge to you in a Q&A format. If you have any questions about streaming, feel free to leave a comment and we'll try to get to it in future videos in this series. In this video, we're going to have Johnny, the CTO and co-founder of Estuary, go over what are write-ahead logs and what are the gotchas you should know about. Let's get right into it.
So databases offer this really useful primitive of a transaction, which is basically I can make a change to a bunch of tables and all of those changes are going to sort of commit or become visible all at once together or not at all if it's rolled back. So it gives me this way of changing a bunch of related things at the same time. But databases are built on top of spinning hard disks or SSDs these days, but they're built on top of disks, which are anything but transactional. Like a disk, if you're trying to write data to a disk, it will freely just say I wrote half of it and then someone pulled the plug from the wall and the other half got lost. Sorry. So databases have to offer this sort of transactional primitive on top of a piece of hardware that doesn't offer transactions. So write-ahead logs is the technique that databases use in order to offer transactionality. So briefly, a write-ahead log is where a database sort of records the set of changes it's planning to make in an open transaction or it has already made in a transaction that's committed. It's basically journaling the changes that are being made to the database, as well as markers of whether a transaction is committed. So then if you pull the plug from the wall and the database crashes, what it's able to do on startup is look at that write-ahead log and say, okay, this transaction committed, so it's applied. This transaction was rolled back, so I'm going to ignore it, and so on. So this is really something that databases created for themselves. In order just to implement the database in the first place, you kind of need this. But it ends up being really useful for watching that database and trying to extract out what's happening inside of that database as some external application. And pretty much all of the databases now have implemented features that take the raw binary physical logs that the database is keeping in this write-ahead log and adding logical replication streams on top of it to make it really nice and easy to get it out of the database. But the problem is these databases are only keeping write-ahead logs around for a limited amount of time. If you've got a multi-terabyte database, a multi-terabyte table even, the database is going to keep a write-ahead log around for really recent changes and not much more than that. After things are far enough in the past, it doesn't need the write-ahead log around anymore. It would be a lot to keep around on disk. So databases don't do that. And the primary challenge, if you're trying to implement change data capture, is that you rarely care about just the ongoing changes to the table. You actually really want a full sync of the entire content of the table that is reactive and responsive to ongoing changes that are happening within that table. So it's not enough to just say I want changes that are happening, starting from now and going forward. That's actually quite easy to do. The hard part is saying I want all of this history and then I want it to stitch together exactly with the ongoing changes that are coming from this replication. And that's the hard part. So one of the major issues when we started looking at this a couple of years ago, one of the major issues is that if you want this logically consistent snapshot, the way that Debezium still default today, the way that Debezium does this is it basically takes it starts a transaction that is locking the database or locking tables within this database. And what that is effectively doing is it's causing the database, it's forcing the database to keep around all of the write-ahead logs for ongoing changes of that table. And then while it's got this lock, it does this select star, essentially. It's scanning out all of the content of the table. And the issue is that this can take a while. If you've got a multi-terabyte database, that select star, it's going to be running potentially for many days. And while that's happening, your database is basically filling up its disk with write-ahead log segments, which is a great recipe for running out of disk space on your operational production database. So one of the core issues that we really wanted to address was how do we do like correct backfills in a incremental way without bringing down your production database while we're doing it, and keeping the load on that database very low. So that's like was one of the primary motivators that started us out on this journey. Others are, for a variety of reasons, like we've heard repeatedly from partners and vendors and customers, that like the actual snap, the data you're getting out is not always logically consistent. And by that I mean, like, you'll get, for some particular key in your table, you'll get like an update that happens before its insert. Or you might see two inserts for a particular key, which doesn't really make sense because you can only insert a key, then update it, and then delete it. You can't insert a key twice. It doesn't make sense, unless, assuming that there's a primary key on the table. So those are two major issues that we were kind of setting out to address, and that we really wanted to resolve in the work that we were doing in this space.
In our next Q&A video, we're going to have Dave, the CEO and co-founder of Estuary, go over, for people with a technical background but not data engineers, what tech stack would you recommend, as well as how would you get started in streaming? Stay tuned, and remember, if you have any questions you would like answered, feel free to drop it in the comments. See you next time.